Hey guys, welcome back to D100 Dudes. This video, I'm going to be tuning up my 2008 Dodge Ram. It's got the 5.7 Hemi in it, and I've owned this truck for many years, and it's got just shy of 400,000 miles on it. And believe it or not, I've never put plugs in it, and I think maybe one coil pack, but actually I kind of wonder if that was my last truck I did the coil pack on. Regardless, it's got a bunch of miles on it. My check engine light's been on in this thing actually for about 3 years, and I had it checked, and it was just my gas cap and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So it ran great, I don't care. I've driven this thing everywhere with the check engine light. However, about 2 weeks ago, the check engine light started flashing and dinging, and it's got a skip in it. Took it to a friend of mine that owns a service center, and he checked it out with his gauges and said it had a misfire on number 6. So I just went ahead and bought a whole set of coils and a whole set of plugs for this thing. I'm gonna put all new plugs in it, all new coil packs. And a lot of people say don't buy your coil packs online, but I'll be honest, I've probably tuned up about 5 cars with coil packs that I purchased online and have had, knock on wood somewhere, no problems whatsoever with them. So I did save a ton of money by buying them online versus going to the local parts house and buying them. I got the plugs online as well, and they were actually compatible with the parts house, but it was just a convenience for me to go ahead and order them at the same time. But again, I'm gonna pop the hood here and just kind of show you what we're up against a little bit. So these are gonna be fairly easy, several of them anyways. I think the driver's side, rearmost, if you can see where my light's going way back in there, that's going to be the toughest one of the bunch probably. So, you know, we got one coil pack per cylinder, obviously. And each cylinder, if you don't have one of these or you've never done one of these, each cylinder actually has 2 spark plugs on these Hemis. So you need 16 plugs. But I'm going to go ahead and remove all of this cleaner assembly out of here and my air filter box assembly out of here and open up some room for us. On the passenger side, same thing. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge in the very back. The back one is a little buried, so I think, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. But all in all, I'm hoping, you know, 2 to 3 hours to tune this thing up, put all new coils, packs on it, all new plugs in them. My fear is a little bit that I've put it off so long, I've neglected it so long, that it might be turn around and bite me a little bit because of that. But here's what I bought, and again, I ordered all of this online. I got the NGK plugs for mine. I seen, you know, several people kind of suggest they were recommended using the NGKs, so I just went ahead and got those. And then the coil packs themselves, they did have a name and there's no markings on them, but again, as you can see, there's 2 spark plugs per, so you got 2 boots coming off each coil pack to go to each individual spark plug. So, and your obviously your connection, your electrical connection for those. And again, I don't expect this to be horrific, but with almost 400,000 miles on it, I might be up for a challenge. But keep with me, I'll show you how to change each and every one of these out of here, not leave anything hidden. Okay guys, just real quick, here are basically the tools that I needed to do this job today. Flathead screwdriver, again that was to get the breather off, and it came in handy actually to push the connectors on the coil packs to help slide those off of there. Ratchets, I had, you know, pretty much one of each flavor because again the 1/4-inch drive came in super handy getting to the coil pack. Hardware with a 10mm. It was a 10mm to get the top of the intake system off, whatever you call that cover. Again, variety of ratchets and the extensions. You know, again, had to have a variety of extensions to get into all of these plugs. I used the swivel on a couple of them. That helped because it turned out to be shorter than my extensions, so that helped my depth wise. Had the adapter for the 1/2-inch drive ratchet to go to the 3/8 for some of the plugs that were extremely tight. And of course, the most important tool, 5/8 true spark plug socket with the rubber boot inside of that, because unless you're David Copperfield, you ain't gonna change these things with a 5/8 socket and get those plugs out of there without, you know, using a magnet or some kind of trickery up your sleeve. And then these were a backup device. I had a friend that changed out his, and his coil packs, the old ones, disintegrated, and he wound up tearing some of them off down inside of the spark plug holes. So he recommended that I go out and buy a set of these, and I never had to use them. All my coil packs pulled off good and clean. But this, you know, you can put it down inside the spark plug well and grab a hold of the boot on the coil pack and help to pull that out of there and prevent that thing from tearing and causing you a nightmare to try to get in there and get all that out from around the spark plug, because you won't get your socket in there with any of the boot left in there. So again, pretty much straightforward. I mean, 10 mil, 5/8, and then just a series of sockets and extensions. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to get started by removing some of this upper, again, I don't know what you call this. It's just a shield of some nature, but regardless, I think there's only two 10mm bolts holding that in. Remove the air filter assembly and the plenum that's going here, which of course is just a flathead screwdriver, a couple of clips on the box, and then I might remove the lower portion of the box also, just depending on how difficult that is to get out of there. And then probably remove this this tube as well, just to get stuff out of the way. And been a bit since I replaced my air filter in this thing. Yeah, she's pretty dirty, so I'll go ahead and get me a new air filter, put a new one in there. That'll help her out a little bit too. And once it comes to this top cover, again, they're just 10mm, and you got one that's hiding in right behind this hose here. So just get a 10mm on that. Motor is hot because I just had to drive down to the parts house and grab a couple of things. So yeah, maybe those are. And the other one's back here, right behind on mine, anyways, right behind the oil filler spout. Wrench, or my ratchet rather, getting a little used and abused. Doesn't pivot real easy. Come up out of there. And I've got one plug here. Going to that, just squeeze this front, squeeze that in, pull, come right out. Simple as that. And we got that out of the way. So as you can see, that frees up a ton of space for you to get in there and work on these things much easier than having all that stuff in place. Again, this, I think she just slips up over a couple of spots here. So if so, I may just go ahead and pull this up out of there to just get it out of the way. Because again, I'm going to be up in there crawling around, and I don't want to break this. So, you know, give you some more space and one less thing to hopefully give you a headache and break it. But again, I think my memory serves me correct. This thing just pulls up, just lifts up. Yep. Literally just lifts right up out of there. squeezed in up here a little bit. The wire harness running over the top of it. And that's it. She's out of the way. So again, much cleaner area to work in. Gives you a ton of room to get up in here and work on these things. And I'll be honest with you, this morning I'm going to start on the nasty ones because I don't want to save the worst till the last. So getting everything out of here, the passenger side doesn't look bad at all. But again, the driver's rear most, and again, I don't know, I didn't check the firing order on these things. You know, old school, it was 13572468. So again, I don't know if that is still what they call it today, but I'm going to go with the driver's rear to be the first one that I try to get up out of there. And I'm going to go ahead and let my wife take over with the camera because, you know, it's something, again, I've got it propped up right now on a radiator and I don't want to knock it over and bust it or, you know, damage it during this install. So turn it over to her and we'll get going on this rear one. And again, I'm hoping that is the worst one, but actually both of these, the back two on the driver's side, because of our clearance to the power brake booster here, you know, it's very tight. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge to get in there and pull those. You know, again, the boots are flexible, so it's not going to be horrific, but get in there and get those bolts off of these coil packs. And those, I believe, are 10mm as well. Let me just double check real quick. Yeah, so those are 10mm as well. And same thing, we just got the plugs on each coil pack. Comes off pretty much as easy as what I just showed you up front there. Let me go ahead and move the camera just in case you can't see this. But here's one of the front coil pack, and again, it's actually on the back side of it, and you just give it a squeeze on this right here, which of course you can't see because it's towards the back, and pull it and she come right off of there. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave that one sitting on here for now and not reconnect it. And for now, I'll just get in here, try to get the coil pack out of the way. And the older you get, the less fun it is to climb around inside these things. All right. There we go. So it's just a little bit of a trick to get in there and compress that thing. So I'm going to give it a whirl first time around here with no extension on it at all. This one is pretty tight. Again, they're 10mm. It's holding the coil pack on. So let's see, I can get up in here underneath the brake booster on this one. And hopefully crack them loose and finger walk them out, but that doesn't appear to be working. Let me see if I can find a better ratchet. This one's really feels like it's got sand inside the gears. All right, let's give her a whirl now. This is my buddy's old school Craftsman here. And there we go. She's starting to come out. Finger loose now. And there you go. Right there. What we're looking at, so it's not super long. Some of them you think they're going to China with the other threads on these things. They're so long. All right, and the other one looks to be a bit trickier. Boy, she's back in there. I'm trying to do this. I'm totally blocking the camera. But,
give her just a few turns, because if she starts walking out, at least with the 3/8 ratchet, you're gonna run out of real estate before you hit the cab here. So yeah, she's loose. So I got, you can see all this debris falling out of here. This old truck's got so many miles on it. She'd been warm a time or two. You can see my tubing around my wire harness is just brittle. My arm's rubbing against it, and it's just flaking out of there. This thing's so old and had heat, you know, radiating out of it. All right, let's see what happens here. If I just try to pull her. Get my arm up underneath here. Two-man show on this. And voila! There's coil pack number 1. Well, number 7, if you will, very rearmost. Obviously, she's had some oil getting down in there. The plug boot is wet. This would be the rearmost plug out of these two. She got some oil down in there somehow. So anyways, got that one out. Now comes the tricky part, trying to get down in there and snake these plugs out. And they are 5/8 is the plug socket size. All right, and definitely a pointer on these is make sure you have a real true spark plug socket that's got the rubber boot inside of there. Hopefully you can see that down in there. So these actually have a rubber boot, and this is going to be an absolute requirement when you are trying to remove these plugs and replace them, because they're down inside the well, the spark plug well, and you won't be able to get them out of there without a ton of effort anyways. So these will hold the plug to pull it out of there. It'll hold the plug to put the plug back in there as well. So definitely a requirement to have one of these. Smart. There was my daily dumb. Those things go a little further in there than I thought. And my socket fell off my ratchet. So you definitely want to have a variety of extension sizes available to get down in there. And there we go. I'm on it. All right, let me tell you what my first blunder was this morning. I didn't check the depth of those, and I put the socket on one of my extensions. It was probably the cheap one that didn't have the ball to grab a hold of the socket, and the socket fell off in the hole. So then I went ahead and grabbed this 6-inch extension, got down in there, got hooked on the socket. Then the problem was I couldn't pull it out because of the firewall on the truck. And then really kind of got myself in a pickle because I couldn't get
the extension back off the socket, so I wound up having to get a screwdriver and poke it in alongside of everything, push the socket off. So then what I've discovered is I got this 3-inch and this is 2 3/4. Once you put them together, these two combined are about 5 1/4 inch. And this will work to get in there, give you room to get your ratchet on top of it and break the socket loose. The problem is you still can't pull this entire length out of the spark plug hole because, again, of the firewall. So what I discovered, what I think is going to work, is I'm going to have to pull it up, pull this extension off, and then pull this out with the spark plug, is my hopes, is how that's going to work out. So anyways, blunders as we go, but I'm going to document them.
Room to work back here is definitely an issue. So I put the plug down in the hole with the first extension on it, then I popped the other extension on there, and I've got it down over the plug. Now let's see if I can crack her loose. Like I said, you got some room in here to work, but not a ton. What I've discovered for myself anyways, is to take this top extension off and just leave 3-inch extension on there. Finger caught on something. I'm about to drop it down in the well. Oh, and I dropped my plug. Dang. Okay. So even with my spark plug socket, it still let go of my plug, but it's a crappy angle back in there trying to get that thing out of there. So now try to get this back in there and grab a hold of just the plug again. There she is. Whoa. And she looks like she's been in there forever. 1 down, 15 to go. You filming?
I'm in.
All right, so I pulled out the second from back plug on the back cylinder, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the new plug back in that hole right away. That way I'm not dropping any debris as I'm in there working on the other one. I don't want to drop anything down inside the cylinder. And the plug gap, according to the internet on these, is 0.44, and that's what I've gapped them to. They were pretty close right out of the box, at least this one was anyways. But again, I'm going to go ahead and put it back in there because I don't want any more problems than I need. So I'm going to go ahead and start. And again, I'll have to put this second socket on it once I get back in there. And hopefully my plug socket will do the trick that it's supposed to do. All right, now I'm going to attempt to remove the absolute furthest most back plug, which she appears to be just as tricky as the first one. It almost looks like we got less real estate back there than we had on the first one. Which makes sense because the firewall's curving down right there. If you can see that 3-inch socket or extension is just barely sticking out of the hole there. Oops, almost dropped her. And she's finger loose now, at least. Tight coming out of there. Oh, that one's got a lot of oil down in there. Around the plug, and actually in the plug. The plug's, you know, actually pretty clean considering the miles, but there's a lot of oil down in that particular boot. On we go. I'm glad those are behind us. All right, so got both of the back plugs in, ready to put the new coil pack on. I got this beautiful yellow color, gonna give me some more MPGs and high performance. Just lying, but anyways, again, I bought these through the interweb, and again, don't know nothing about them. They had good reviews on the internet for what they were, so hopefully they'll treat me well. And actually, it did come with some dielectric grease I need to dig out and put that on. Pause. Alright, so these new coil packs actually have what I refer to as a captive screw hardware in it. Right, so this actually, if you take your original fastener, the original coil packs again were just a pass-through hole, where this one's tapped in. When you screw that thing in and you screw it all the way, it becomes locked in the part and it won't fall out, which is actually awesome. You know, we use these a lot in aviation industry, but so this is a good feature. Hopefully it won't fight us, but I don't think it will. Again, to me, this is a great feature to have these and not have the possibility of your fasteners falling out when you're trying to muscle your way back in there and get these things started in the holes, because dropping one of these would be a nightmare up underneath the engine compartment. So let's give it a whirl and see how easy she goes in. So again, you want, you know, your plug was facing towards the center of the engine. You want to make sure that you're doing that. And this one was a bit of a challenge to get out of there. And probably going to be just as big of a challenge to go back in. That's it. That one is in. So a little bit of a headache. Again, I chose to tackle the worst one first, and hopefully they'll get easier as we make our way out. Again, this one I don't think is going to be super easy, simply because of the space restrictions to the power brake booster, but it's not as far back in there, so that's going to make me happy. I don't know about the passenger's rearmost, but I'm going to knock out all the driver's side, then we'll move over to the passenger side. So I got that coil pack removed already. It wasn't too bad at all, came right out of there. Pretty easy. The only thing I did different on this one was I switched over to my 1/4-inch drive ratchet. Gave me more room to get in between that brake booster and the larger ratchet. So that's the only thing I really did different on that one. And then we'll see how easily we can get into these spark plugs. Yeah. They just don't give you much room to work on these things. So if you've got a spark plug socket that has a swivel extension on it, that might come in handy here, but wish you don't want to get started there. Let me try this one that's a little bit shorter. Okay, guys, so I got the back one from this one out, and it was a bit of a challenge. So, you know, same thing, I kind of had to trick it. What I had to do was lower the socket, the spark plug socket, into the hole, hold it at the very end, and then put my extension in there. And my 3-inch extension actually just stuck out just enough that I could get a hold of that thing and start at least get it broke loose. So again, to put it in here, I'm just going to reverse the process, and I'm going to have to block the camera because I need both hands to get in here. But so I lower it down in there, and again hold the very top of the socket and get in there with this extension. Helps to have your hands good and clean, and get it down in there. And so now it's on, and I'm starting this spark plug down into the hole. I did put a little dielectric grease on the end of the plug. Again, that's as far as I can get it. Finger tight. And I will say, with these old school, and I'm sure there's several of these, let me show you on this. This is a Craftsman, my favorite. But these old Craftsman, they got these finger, whatever you want to call it, grips, and they are priceless in certain situations like this. A lot of the new tools don't have that, the new Craftsman anyways, and I'm sure there's other ratchets out there that have something similar, but these are a cost lifesaver when you're doing stuff like this. All right, so same thing on this one here. You know, again, the power brake booster is definitely an obstacle. Almost couldn't get the plug and the socket out of this thing, so just got to kind of ease it in there. And again, got to take up the camera room with my hands, lower that socket down in there, try to get this extension started. If you drop it down in the well, which actually I've been doing pretty much on purpose on these, it's actually not that big of a deal, because you can get your extension down in there and clipped on. And these things, you know, they almost thread themselves in the spark plug holes naturally, you know, because the well is so tight around the plug that it almost just naturally finds its way into the hole. All right, so the one that I've been working by the power brake booster there, it was a bit of a chore. So what I wound up having to do was basically drop the spark plug socket down in the well, Then I had to stick this down inside the well, find it, get it to click home. I drove it home, got it as far in there as I could, and actually I had to use the one that's just slightly shorter. I don't know where it's at the moment. This one's a 3-inch, the other one I think was 2 3/4, so it helped. But once it got down in there, then it wouldn't, none of it was exposed. So I had to pull it back up out of there, put the 3-inch on it, put it in there. And even then, my ratchet still wouldn't grab a hold. So what I wound up having to use was a swivel and put that in there. And that was short enough that I was able to get my extension in there and go ahead and torque that one down. Same thing, I had to take the ratchet off first, pull it up enough that I could hold on to the extension, pull the swivel off of there, pull it up enough that I could get a hold of this, which was very difficult, and pull that extension off, then pull the spark plug socket out of the hole. So that one was probably my least favorite so far, including the two that we've done in the back. All right, guys, kind of difficult to show this all on camera as I work, but regardless, I got the back two in. So these, as you can see, pretty straightforward. I don't foresee these giving us any problem whatsoever, but I was going to try to do a time lapse on these, but I just can't get a camera shot in here where, you know, my hands are going to be blocking everything. But again, these are pretty much wide open. This is going to come out easy. I don't think we're going to have any problem with the plugs at all. Obviously on this one, not at all. And this one here, maybe the rear one, you know, might give us a little bit of headache with this booster, but I don't predict it's going to be much at all. All right, so I've moved over to the passenger side, and same thing, I'm going to start with the worst one, which is the rearmost one. So what I did to try to make a little room, you know, this clip was on this stud here, so I pulled that off. You know, it's just a push fit, so you can just pull that thing off of there. And then this big wire harness right here is kind of a pain. So it was a struggle to get to, actually both of the bolts weren't very easy to get to on the coil pack, but I've got the coil pack out of there already, and now I'm fixing to take the spark plugs out, and we'll see how that goes. It doesn't look like it's going to be super easy either, but on the driver's side, the front two, well, the third from the, well, the second one from the front, it was, you know, again, both of them were a little bit of a challenge. I had to do the old drop the socket in there, you know, hit it with a extension and do it in that same manner. The front one, I put an extension, long extension and socket in there, and that was no problem. Couldn't get the ratchet and everything in there. There's one assembly, but no big deal. So anyways, let's see how this one goes back here.
We're rolling.
All right, so I got the passenger's rearmost coil pack and plugs replaced. That one probably was my least favorite. I mean, I'm tore up from getting back in there. You got the heater hoses that were kind of in the way. You got this big wire harness that's in the way, and then getting your tools back in there. If you were an octopus, it'd be great. You'd have about 8 arms to get back in there and hold everything out of the way and put the tool in there. But anyways, it's done. Hallelujah. The last 3 should be pretty easy. So this, to the best of my knowledge, again, should be 2, 4, 6, 8, and number 6 is what they were saying was misfiring when we put it on the analysis at the shop. And this is the plug that came out of there, whether or not you can see that, but actually part of the diode, the porcelain diode, is gone on this plug. And this plug wasn't even in there really that tight. You know, it didn't, the back two, I was fearful they were going to break. They were in there so tight. But this one came out very easy, and again, obviously missing a piece of the porcelain around the diode. So this was my culprit, I guess. And again, I didn't suspect that it was a coil pack because it was intermittent. If I was driving normal around town, it didn't miss at all. Whereas if I was under an acceleration or pulling my trailer, then it would miss, and you know, my check engine light would flash and ding. But anyway, so that's the culprit. 400,000 miles almost, and I guess I can't complain. These are champions. Again, as far as I know, these are the original plugs to the truck. So these last 2 should go relatively easy. I'm hoping, knock on wood. They're very easy to get to, so I'm not really going to videotape much on them. You know, again, if you can get these back 4 on each, the back 2 on each side replaced, you can do the front 2 without even thinking about it. But all right, guys, I got everything back together, and I meant to time it, but I had a couple of blunders that I did along the way. Dropped the socket down inside my wipers, so that took a little time to get that back out of there. And my stupidity with the rear spark plug right away when I first started this thing, so that cost me a little bit of time there as well. But all in all, I'm guessing 2.5 to 3 hours is what it took me, actual hands-on wrench time, to do everything, taking it apart, putting it back together. Not cranked it yet, but getting ready to do that, see how she runs. But again, I'm convinced the plugs were my problem, not my coil pack, because it didn't have a constant miss. Whereas, you know, traditionally if you have a coil pack that goes bad, it's just bad. It's going to miss all the time. And this was only missing under a load and going up a hill, so I pretty much knew that it was going to be my spark plugs. And again, almost 400,000 miles on it. It's got 395 on it, so we're going to give her a crank and see how she fires up. Got something whistling in it too. It's been doing that the last few days, so I don't know what that is yet, but that's my next journey. Try to figure that out. But right now, seems like it runs better than it has in a long time. My check engine light's still on, but I haven't replaced my gas cap. So that's it. Thanks for watching my videos. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe, like, share, hit that notification button, make some comments. If I've done something stupid and you think you got a better way of doing it, by all means, let me know. Again, this is the first time I ever did it, so it was a little bit of a trick to get through this thing. But nothing you can't do with a little bit of time and patience. And my stressometer didn't really go out of whack with this thing. It was a little bit, but it wasn't as bad. And I did get chewed up, you know, a lot of places. You can't see it, but I did get chewed up quite a bit on this thing. So anyways, but again, thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.